Hey treaties, let's go down to the bayou. Stay tuned for personal travel recommendations and a tasty cooking demo. Roll that intro. Hey, I'm Christine and welcome to my channel where we explore travel destinations and the eats that go with them. Today we are going to talk about a dish that is packed with flavor with a Cajun twist. It's creamy and a perfect product of a Roman and Nola fusion. This dish is versatile enough to cook on any weekday night or to impress your family and friends at your next gathering. But before we get started, remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you never miss a video. Let's get started. Norfolk, Virginia, a city dedicated to today's guests. Top things to do when visiting Norfolk include visiting Ocean View Beach, exploring the Nauticus Museum, and doing some shopping and dining in the Waterside District. Today's guest is a young life shaper, a musician, and a track and field coach. He's my husband's frat brother and a good friend by default. Come on over, Justin. How are you?
I'm doing fine, and yourself?
Pretty good. Ready to get into this dish. So could you tell our viewers a little bit more about your dish and what ingredients we're gonna be using today?
Okay, well today I will be making a Cajun shrimp and chicken pasta. So my ingredients include garlic, cheese. I'll be using some heavy cream, garlic powder, some Cajun seasoning. I have some spicy garlic seasoning. I also have some pepper, and I have some paprika.
And you got some chicken here, and chicken and shrimp here too, pre-seasoned. What kind of seasonings did you use on those to prep it?
The same seasonings that I will use in the pasta and in the sauce is the same thing that I season the chicken with. I like to season my chicken and my shrimp the day before, at least 5 hours in advance, so that the seasoning has time to actually soak into the meat. The only difference is I actually have a little bit of parsley added to it.
Okay. So the same seasonings that you mentioned, but plus the parsley on the chicken and shrimp. And then I see you got some olive oil, and then obviously we got the pasta. What kind of pasta do you use for this dish?
Typically I like using penne pasta. Sometimes I use linguine.
Okay. Guess we can get started with some of the prep here. A lot of the things are already pre-prepped. So you got your cheeses, you have your mixed garlic. I guess if you wanted to use fresh garlic, you could. And then the seasonings, and then the chicken is already pre-prepped. Is it your preference to use like chicken breast or chicken thighs, or what kind of chicken do you use?
I prefer to use the chicken tenders.
Okay.
They're much easier to cook as well as cut up and prep.
All right, so we got some fresh parsley here. We're gonna go ahead and chop that up and then get started with the cooking. So we're at the stove now, ready to get cooking. Could you talk us through how you approach putting together this pasta?
Okay, so first thing I do is I take some water in a pot and I add some sea salt.
Okay.
After I bring the water to a boil, I add the pasta.
How much salt are you adding? Like a pinch, or is like about a tablespoon? Like how much teaspoon?
It's a few pinches of salt.
Okay.
I just don't want the pasta to be too salty.
Okay.
So that way that you can actually taste the pasta, but it's not overly bearingly salty.
All right. So with the chicken and the shrimp, are we cooking them together? We're cooking them separately, or?
I'm cooking them separately.
Okay.
I'll be using a grill pan.
Okay.
And I will be using olive oil so that it does not stick.
Okay.
Because there's not a lot of fat in the chicken or the shrimp.
Okay. Gotcha. Do we have to add garlic or anything to the olive oil while we're cooking, or?
Typically when we are cooking, we don't have to add anything to the olive oil.
Okay.
When we start the sauce, we'll be adding garlic and butter.
Okay. So we got the chicken in the pan, sizzling. We're gonna cook this until it's completely done, or are we gonna leave it so so that we can add it and cook it more in the pasta?
So typically what I do is I do cook it until it's done. What happens is once I let it cook through on one side, I will flip it. And once I flip it, then I can cut the pan off and let the residual heat cook through. So that way the chicken is not too dry. It gives it the juiciness, but it still is always done.
So we've cooked the pasta and drained the pasta. Tell us more about what we're gonna do next to prep it before adding in everything together.
Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add a little olive oil and some seasoning to the pasta. The olive oil so the pasta doesn't really stick, and then the seasoning gives it some extra flavor.
Okay, so what seasonings are you using?
For the seasonings, I will be using some garlic powder, and I will be using some all-purpose seasoning.
How do you know how much olive oil to use?
It really depends on how much olive oil you like.
Okay.
Just judge it by eye.
Okay. So just enough to kind of...
Enough to coat the noodles.
Okay.
And I like a lot of garlic powder. And then this all-purpose seasoning. Toss this around. And as you're tossing it, you can kind of gauge if you need to add more seasoning.
Okay. So the chicken is done. We're gonna chop that for preparation of the pasta, and we're cooking the shrimp. So we're cooking the shrimp and the leftover oil from the chicken. Any tips on the best way to cut the chicken or cook the shrimp?
I just cut the chicken into chunks.
Okay.
Typically with the chicken tenders, it will get a little jagged, but that's actually a good thing because then you can get chicken in every bite.
Do you take the same approach on the shrimp as you did with the chicken, on cooking it one side and then turning it off to let the residual heat cook the remainder?
Yes, the exact same approach. The only difference is I cook shrimp a lot lower because shrimp cooks fast, and I do not want to burn it or dry it out.
Smells delicious. Okay, so we're gonna have a little fun with rapid trivia. The rules of trivia are that you get 25 seconds to answer as many questions as possible. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
What is the most commonly eaten pasta in the U.S.?
Macaroni.
Finish the lyric to this popular song. At first I was afraid, I was petrified.
Oh, I thought that I could never live without you by my side. There we go.
What does al dente mean?
Al dente means salt. Oh.
So the chicken is chopped, the shrimp is done. What are we doing now?
So now I'm adding the chicken and the shrimp to the pasta that's in the bowl.
Okay.
So after I add it to the bowl, I am going to start making the sauce.
All right, so we're about to put together this sauce. Are we starting with butter or is that margarine?
This is butter. You can use margarine, but butter just tastes better.
Okay.
But for the healthier side of things, you can definitely use margarine.
Butter with or without salt?
This is butter with salt.
Okay. And you're using about 2 tablespoons of butter?
Yes.
Okay.
The purpose of the butter is just to pretty much coat the pan so I can saute the minced garlic.
So we're gonna bring that to a sizzle and saute the garlic up in the butter.
Yes.
Okay. How do you get it so it's brown, or how much do you cook it?
You cook it until it starts to brown.
Okay.
And once it starts to brown, then we can add in our heavy cream. And we have to add that in slowly so that it can thicken up.
So we have our butter, garlic, heavy cream on a slow simmer. What are we adding next?
We're going to start adding in some seasoning. I'm going to make sure that the cream is starting to thicken up before you add the seasoning. So the first seasoning I'm going to add is some garlic powder, a little bit of this Cajun seasoning, peppercorn medley.
Is that gonna give it some spice, or is the Cajun season gonna give it the spice?
It gives it a little spice, and this is a spicy garlic seasoning.
Oh, okay, so that gives it the spice.
Now I'm gonna start stirring these in. As you can see, this sauce is starting to thicken up. I'm gonna add in some fresh parsley. So I'm adding in some Italian blend cheese.
Does it matter whether you use Italian blend, or are you able to just use like mozzarella or?
So the Italian blend is a combination of Asiago, mozzarella, Parmesan. It's about 5 different cheeses that are used in Italian dishes. And I'm also adding a grated Parmesan and Romano cheese.
So the sauce is finished now, and we have our pre-mixed chicken, shrimp, pasta, pre-seasoned pasta, and cooked chicken and cooked shrimp, and it's mixed. We split it up so that it wouldn't be too much in the bowl, but so this is about half of what we initially had mixed up. We're just pouring the sauce over now.
Yeah, so now we just pour the sauce.
So the key to the sauce was making sure that, you know, from what I've seen, that you constantly stirred it so that it was not clumping together and it stays smooth. All right, so we got the food plated. Before plating it though, after you mixed everything, you added a couple of ingredients. You want to tell?
Yes, before plating it, I added some extra Parmesan cheese, grated Parmesan, and I added some extra parsley.
Okay, and you mix it all together, and then we plated it and topped it with some fresh parsley and a little bit of extra pizzazz up there.
Yes.
Did you want to share anything about what you would normally pair this with, or any healthy substitutions that you would recommend?
Again, one healthy substitution is margarine for butter.
Okay.
That's healthier. This can be paired with a white wine.
Yes.
If you have a seafood, shellfish allergy, you can always make this with chicken and sausage. And you can always use chicken sausage, which I've used before if you can't have beef or pork. There are multiple things you can add into this. The protein you can switch out. You can even use tofu.
Okay. Awesome. Now, first bite. This was delicious. Thank you so much for being on the show and showing us how to make your chicken and shrimp Cajun Alfredo pasta. Or did I mess that up?
That is correct.
Okay. Thanks for watching. Remember to like,